everyone. Good good day. And welcome to our channel. This is Sip and Share with Oge and Alero, where we talk about all things marriage, family, and today with me is Oge. And guess what? Oge has just celebrated her 10th year wedding anniversary, and we are so pumped on her behalf. Oge, tell us how it is to be married, to have been married for 10 years.
I feel so excited. Hi, everybody. My name is Oge, and I'm so excited to be here. It's been 10 whole years being a married woman. I don't know how it feels, but I feel so excited because I'm not just counting 10 years, I'm actually counting it in days, 365 days times 10.
Amazing, amazing. Congratulations
Thank
again.
you. Thank you.
Today is totally focused on you because you're the latest word, and we would just like to learn a few things from you, hear from your perspective, and see. First question, right? I have a few questions for you. First question: what was the weirdest thing that happened or that you had to deal with when you just got married?
Wow, the weirdest thing. Having to
Not weird, like maybe odd or funny or something random thing.
oh, wedding night. Okay, okay. Our wedding night was funny. It was funny because that night we didn't know where the hole was. We were looking for the hole. And it's so funny because by the time we didn't see it, everybody was tired. We got into the hotel like I think about 12 a.m. that night. And you know how weddings can be, the whole planning and everything. So we got into the hotel. The next thing we know, they've been drawing our ears during our marriage course. Consummation, consummation, consummation. So we were waiting on consummation. And my husband was like, okay, let's try. Consummation, we didn't know which one was the hole. Apparently, women, I think we have about 3 holes, I think. So it was quite confusing at that point. But by the time we were tired, we slept off. The following morning, we figured it out, and then we had enough energy to.
Interesting,
Yes.
interesting. Yeah, I remember being pregnant off the bat because my husband had come to Nigeria to
Okay.
for the wedding and had gone back. So I was alone for most part of my pregnancy. And I had gone to the hospital for antenatal, right? So you know how it is in Nigeria. We were just a lot of women sitting around, and it was my turn apparently to go in. And this matron just comes out and is screaming, "Mrs. Lawanye, Mrs. Lawanye," and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, "Who is this Mrs. Lawanye that is not getting up? She should go and let all of us, Mrs. Lawanye." And it took me about 10 seconds or about 15 seconds to realize that it was me. There was calling. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm Mrs. Lawanye." So do you still, or did you at the early stage of your marriage get like imposter syndrome, or is it something that you still deal with?
Oh no, 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 not at all.
Mm,
I didn't know I didn't have that. Perhaps maybe because I've always loved my husband's son name. I've always loved it. So
right.
I was, yes, I couldn't wait to be called that name. So I was really,
Um,
yes. Sometimes I
no, no,
even
I feel like I still struggle with it, and I still deal with a bit
hmm,
of imposter syndrome. Like people just call me Mrs. Lamoy, and I'm like, who is that? Who's Mrs. Lamoy?
are you serious?
I know it's the weirdest thing. Sometimes my kids, I'll be like, you people, you Lawa, you people. Then my children, I'll be like, well, what are you if you are not Lawa? I'm like,
Can you imagine?
"Hmm."
Oh, can you imagine?
But yeah, that's quite interesting. So
Yeah,
let's get into the crux of the issue. I've jotted down the questions here because, mommy brain, I might
I
forget. So
know.
question number one,
Okay.
I don't know, I have the snipples. What has been the biggest lesson, looking back on the past 10 years of marriage, 3,650 days of marriage?
Yeah.
What has been the biggest lesson for you?
Okay. For me, the biggest lesson has always been learning to trust. It's very difficult trusting someone. And why it's difficult is once the trust is broken, it's difficult mending it.
Mm,
But with marriage, it's a different case. You have to mend it, except you want a temporary marriage or you want
no,
a marriage
definitely.
for today and then tomorrow you are unmarried. So it was really tough learning to trust back and say, okay, you have my life, I have your life, we are in this together, we will build this together. So trust was the biggest thing for me, really. It was the
I
biggest thing for me to
can.
learn and ensure that I continue, because it's continuous. Several times, each other, the husband and wife will always break that bond, that trust. But the ability and the grace, I call it the grace because it is God's grace, the grace to amend and then keep the trust again is something we as married people shouldn't look out, shouldn't, what's the word? Shouldn't overlook. Yes.
Nice one, interesting. Trust is a very big part of marriage, and I can say that marriage will not thrive without trust, So, yeah, I can understand that. The second one, what is the hardest challenge that you've had to face as a married person or in your marriage? The hardest challenge you've had to face.
Hardest challenge. Hardest challenge has to be with when you have children. You don't, that bond becomes difficult to create. That intimacy becomes difficult to create. And yes, at this point, I say I learned from the best. I learned from the best. So I remember sometime in many years, of course, from now, when you and I had a conversation, sometimes when I call you, I just want to vent. That support system was one thing I don't joke with. And I remember you giving me tips and ideas, and you told me, I think you even said to the extent that you had to, put it in a calendar to have a date night with your spouse. So for me, I had to do that. Of course, I didn't put mine in a calendar, but I consciously started thinking about it, started planning towards it, started making it intentional. So with time, we no longer have like one day in a week. We now have like a stretch, sometimes every night. And we start by watching movies every night, talk the boys in to sleep in the very early. And then we have the night to ourselves, at least 2 to 3 hours to ourselves. We could be watching a movie, we could be talking. So it depends on the conversation. It could be work related, it could be personal, it could be family planning, like whatever plans we have for the future, for us, for the kids. And then it could also be a make out time. So we do other things, and yeah, that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
I can understand that intimacy sometimes is one of the biggest challenge, keeping the intimacy when the family is growing.
Yeah.
So also the stress and the mental load is growing. So I can understand that making time out to be a couple might be very difficult. And it's good that you found a way around it to make yourselves better. Next question, and probably my last. Which year was it? Which year do you feel like was the hardest for you in marriage? There's this myth going around that saying, oh, the first year is the hardest, the second year is the hardest. In the stretch of the 10 years, at which point did you feel like it was tough for you in your marriage, of course?
My second year. My
Mm.
second year, between my first year and my second year, but I would say my second year because for my first year, we didn't have enough time to know each other. Then we moved to a different country. So from my second year, we had already moved. And then, we hadn't built that relationship, that bond. We hadn't built that bond. We hadn't built that relationship. We didn't know each other. Bless you. We didn't know each other as much. So you can imagine how it was when you now move to a new country. You have no friends, no support system. Yes, it was hard because honestly, I think at this point I should talk to newlyweds, single ladies who are planning to be married. Don't forget to get a support system, and not just anybody, someone who understands, who will be real with you. Real being the key word. So I think that was the hardest for me because I needed that support system I didn't have, and it was tough because at that point sometimes I can break down and cry. I am in a new location. I have no friends. I don't know anywhere to go to. I stay in the house, break down into tears. I have a toddler to take care. It was the hardest for me. Yes.
Yeah.
My second year was the hardest.
Yeah. I can understand that totally, and I can relate with that. Traveling out or being out of the country really puts a strain on us, mentally as a couple, as parents, it's kind of really tough because I remember coming into Doha about almost 10 years now, about 10 years ago. And I was alone as well. I had newly been married, I had a baby. And to be honest, it felt like I was getting to know my husband for the first time because we had not lived together before I had my baby. He had traveled back to Doha after I got pregnant, and you go into marriage with so many expectations, and when you actually get into it, it's not really the way it is or the way you heard it. You have to start adjusting, and doing that alone without the confidence was quite tough. So yeah, 100%, I'd say for newlyweds, for people who are just planning to get married, look for a confidant. Yeah, I know that people always say things like, oh, don't let a third ear into your marriage, don't let other people into your marriage. I do believe that you should be more selective of who you let into your marriage, very careful of who you let into your marriage. But that thing about not letting other people into your marriage, I don't feel like you can work on it alone.
Yeah, it's a
Because
slow killer,
sometimes,
actually. It's a slow killer.
yeah,
It will kill you faster
it
than
is.
you think.
So, because like if I had not let people into my marriage, I'd probably be divorced now,
Yes, I agree.
because I had places to vent to. I had people to vent to. And also, when you talk to each other, you'd realize that some of the things that you're going through, the next person is going through them as well. You get sometimes the issues in marriage are not peculiar to you alone, right?
Yes, yes.
So you learn from the next person. Oh, really? You went through that. So how did you deal with it? And then you get to learn from that person and then probably try to apply it to yours. If it works, fine. If it doesn't work, you shelf it and look for another solution. So absolutely, I agree. It's for me, my hardest time in my marriage was between year 4 and 5. This was because we had toddlers or children, 2 children under 4, and I was pregnant with my third child at then. And it was one of the biggest struggles we had as both parents and as a couple, because I feel like the ability to, because we were trying so hard to take care of our children, to do right by them, school runs, fending, career wise, and even grow personally, we neglected our marriage, which are two different things. I tell everybody. Sometimes I ask guys, or what is your plan for your marriage, or what is the most important part of your marriage? And I hear them talking about, oh, my children, oh, my no, 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 no. Hold up, that's not your marriage. That is your family. They are two different things, right? So in the bid to move our family forward, we neglected our marriage, and our marriage really suffered for it. We became more of roommates than actual couple. Like if we didn't go out to, if we went out, we had nothing to talk about except, oh, somebody's school fees is due. Oh, somebody needs a new sneakers. Oh, somebody needs, that. We had nothing personal to talk about. We had to take a like chill pill, sit back and reevaluate our marriage, reevaluate where we were coming from. And I can tell you 100% that we also listened to friends. We listened to friends and we learned from them. And with God's grace, we were able to move forward in our marriage, going on 11 in a few weeks. And
I can never
I'm
forget the
super
date.
excited. Right? And to be honest, the way I am, you all will get to know more about this, about me as time goes on. But the way I am, the way I went into marriage, I feel like I have a lot of childhood trauma that I've had to work with, through in the past 11 years. And if anybody told me that I'd still be married today, I'm like, I'm not sure, But yeah, it's a place where we learn a lot. It's a place where we learn a lot. There's no manual for this thing, right?
This thing, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so we look up things as we go along as it suits you.
Yeah.
So it's
I was going to say
quite
something.
amazing.
I was going to say
Yeah, go on.
something about the childhood trauma thing you said you went through.
Hmm.
I'm not going deep. I'm not asking you about the question, but what I wanted to really point out to our viewers is that it's important to know that you come into marriage with your baggage. It
Yep.
is up to you to know how to sieve out your baggage out of your marriage, or how to make the best use of that baggage to mend your marriage. And I think you did
Absolutely.
the latter. So I just wanted to
Yep.
point that to the viewers to know that,
Yep.
yes, everybody have their baggage, but it depends on how you make use of it to better
You love it.
your present life. So
Yep.
kudos to you. I'm sure you did a very good job.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. As time goes on, we get to reveal a lot more to our audience,
Yes.
about the whole marriage.